What's up, everyone? This is your host, Jose Marquez, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday BYOB podcast on YouTube. BYOB means bring your own Bible, and our goal is to make it come alive for you. We invite a wide range of guests to share their stories of triumph, joy, victory, and sorrow, and each episode is designed to talk about real issues with real people about a real God. We hope that you are curious, because if you are, you have tuned into the right place. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sunday BYOB on YouTube. I'm excited about today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about the type 6. But before we get into it, I want to introduce, which, I mean, at this point, you need no introduction, right? Because you're like, people are clamoring for you. They're like, get that bald guy out of there. We want to hear Anna, my beautiful wife, Anna Marquez. Hey.
Hi, everybody.
And today we will be interviewing someone that we've gotten to know very closely, right, during this past COVID year where we've been teaching via Zoom in the gathering every Tuesday night. Jasmine Cantillo, right?
Yep.
Is your last name? She's going to be with us today.
Very excited to be here.
And as I said, today we're going to be talking about the type 6. If you've been following us for the past few weeks, we've talked about the type 1, the type 3, the type 4, the type 5, the type 7, the type 2, the type 9 is coming next week, the type 8. And each one is so distinct and different. And each one has his own description, his own characteristics, and things of that nature. Babe, can you share some of the type 6s?
Yeah. I just want to say how cool it is that we know a number, like a different number.
Ooh,
that's cool. Amazing. Like, we have all these people that we know that they're, well, actually, we don't know any other type 1s. I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you guys. I'm going to find you guys. Somewhere. You guys are out there somewhere. Let me know if you're a type 1. Put it in the comment. But we know, like, type 2s, we know 3s, 4s, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whether they know it or not, but we know. So it's just so cool to have you here, Jasmine.
Thank you for having me.
To being, vulnerable to talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, the things that challenge you, the things that make you thrive. So thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me here.
So we're going to discuss the type 6, which is commonly called the questioner, the loyalist, the skeptic, the trooper, and or the guardian. And some famous 6s is Sherlock Holmes, Ant-Man, Black Panther, and Woody Allen. And for a description of a type 6, they're usually nervous around authority figures and usually don't trust people in authority. Like to have a clear-cut guideline and to know where they stand. Don't like unpredictability. They constantly question themselves about what might go wrong. Convinced they could see through slick images and false pretenses. 6s are edgy, like a child expecting to get jumped. Excellent troubleshooters. Their core fear is being without support, without security or guidance, being blamed or targeted. Their core desires having security, guidance, and support. And their core weakness is anxiety, trying to predict and prevent negative outcomes. And their core longing, what their heart wants to hear, is that you are safe and secure. So, Jasmine, does this any way relate to you? Do you identify with some of these strengths or weaknesses or desires?
Yes, definitely. When it comes to security, I'm very big on that. I mean, my husband, when he has his own business, he's always been into entrepreneurship. I'm like, I'm not that type. I don't take that risk. I need to know where my paycheck is coming every day. Like, I need that security. I mean, even a job, it's nothing's ever secure. Mm-hmm. But I know, that I'm going to work every day. I know where my check's coming. That whole jumping and just being an entrepreneur and doing things like that, I'm not, like, going to jump off the edge like that. That's definitely not my type. What else are some of the things that you said?
So just because it's fun doesn't mean you're gonna do it. You're gonna
No, I like fun. Like, I'll jump off the edge to go, like, in a water or river or something crazy. I could be a little spontaneous in that sense. But when it comes to, like, security long term, I know one of the fears was, like, fear of the future. So that is definitely something always on my mind. I never want to be the type that, like on my deathbed, I never want to be able to say, I regret this or I missed out on that. Like, I want to be able to be on my deathbed and say, I accomplished everything that I wanted. I did everything. So definitely like fear of the future, always planning. I'm definitely a planner. As a teacher, I have to plan, so I'm a natural planner. Because again, that's what teachers do, right? You have to always be prepared. Teaching is not something you could just go and do. You always have to be ready for, you know, your audience, for your students. So, and that's also in my regular life. You know, I plan what's going to happen in a year from now, where we're going to be, where are my kids going to be, what are they going to be doing? And I fear, because that's one of like my sins is fearful. Yeah. So I do fear of like even their anxiety, future, and thinking a lot about like, what are they going to do? Are they going to turn out wrong? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? So that's always like brewing in my mind. So I need to just sometimes like chill back and kind of let God be, you know, because I know like one of the virtues is faith for me, but the sin is fear. So sometimes keeping them in order, right? Faith over fear instead of the other way around sometimes can be a little difficult.
Yeah, that's so good. I've always said like those two things, I feel like they take the same amount of energy, but one of them is you direct your efforts or your focus on you, and the other one you direct it on God. Right, when it comes to faith and fear. I wrote a quote because I knew your role in being a teacher. I feel like it's somewhat connected to your career. Right. And one of the books that we have, it shows the different careers that suit different types. And for the 6, the being a teacher kind of suits them. And one of the quotes that I read is from Eric Hoffer. And he says, in times of great change, which is always, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. Right. So when I think about a 6 and when I think about your journey in the Enneagram, which we're going to find out a little bit more. We're going to find out more about it in a little bit. I think, you know, when it comes to the 6s, for me, it's challenging to kind of understand them because not only is it a whole different type, but when it comes to 6s, there's the phobic 6 and the counterphobic 6. And they both react to authority in different ways, right? The phobic 6 is more complacent, is more, you know, go with the flow type, but then the counterphobic 6 attacks authority until
I'm
it's
a little
proven
bit of both.
to be
I'm
right.
definitely a little bit of both. Like sometimes I will go with like what the principal says, what, you know, my parents say, like I am very follow the rules. I do follow the rules, but there are times where no, like if it's wrong, I want to stand up, I want to fight, and then like the peleona of me comes out, right? So I definitely can see I do have, depends like on the situation, but both can come out in different times.
That's so good.
Is it because there you see like an injustice, or because you see like a threat to your security that you get?
More like
that,
an injustice when something is not fair, like, or even if like in my belief, if I don't feel like, if I don't believe in it, then I don't want it. Like, why do I have to do it?
Right.
If I don't believe in it. So it's more, I'm like, you know, very strong in like my faith. And even I know for a 6, that's one of like their attributes as well, that they're very faithful to like their beliefs and what they believe. And it's not just in God, but, you know, in other
very
topics,
loyal.
whether it's like political or whether it's, you know, anything that's going on in the world, like you said, injustice or anything that's happening this year. I do have that in me as well, with like just passionate.
That's one of the reasons why I think my dad is a 6, because he's very like, when he's passionate about one thing, like you cannot tell him otherwise. Like it's just, it is what it is.
But sometimes I'm sure he can be maybe passive sometimes as well. Yeah. So it's like, it just depends. Like sometimes I want to go fight. And then other times it's like, no, but you got to like follow the rule. And like, that's what it says. That's what I'm going to do. So it's just like, depends on the situation.
Well, and one of the things that I read when it comes to the 6 is that it takes them a while to commit to a cause. Right, because they got to know for sure these people aren't going to fail me. These people aren't going to betray me. These people aren't playing me. These people aren't using me. But once they get to that place of committing, of buying into somebody's vision or buying into the cause, like that's the one that you want on your side. That's
well, with the Enneagram 6, I mean, the Triad is the head, right? So I have to think about things a lot before I make that decision. And sometimes, maybe because it is part of like my loyalty, I never want to quit on something or feel like it wasn't the right choice. Again, kind of goes with regret. I don't want to. So if I'm not happy in my job, I'm just gonna like stick it out, maybe next year will be better, or very hopeful. Like it's hard for me to like walk away, or if I'm unhappy, like in a relationship, I'm just gonna keep fighting and sticking it out, even though I'm happy, like unhappy. I don't want to walk away. Like it's hard for me to, it's all in my head. Yeah. Because I don't want to ever say again, like, what if it did get better? And then here I am seeing like how my job got better and I missed out, or how I'm married for over 20 years, but like if I wasn't with my husband and I broke up with him and I see him happy with another girl.
Just trying to predict the
like,
future.
Yes. So like he's happy with someone else. So all those years like I put in now is like someone else is reaping that. So let me keep sticking it out because like I want to get that benefit.
I ain't put in that work for somebody else.
Exactly.
So it's part of like that loyal part of me.
That's so good.
But I think a struggle with being so loyal, I would say, is setting boundaries. Definitely that's a struggle for me because like again, if you're a loyalist, you're like a ride or die. Yeah. Like at my job, I've been in that district forever. I'm not going nowhere. Like the gym that I go to, I've been there for over 10 years. Like I even tell the trainer, like, you owe me alimony or something because I've been here way too long, okay? And he laughs, but like that's me. If I commit to something, I'm pretty loyal. Like I'll be there. Like
stick it through.
I might not be there on time. That's one thing I'm not loyal to is time. Okay. But if I say I'm coming, I will be there. So but the whole boundary thing. So like to give you an example, maybe like 12 years ago, that was the time like me and my husband were going through, I would say, our testimony time, but little parentheses, right? God is good. He's restored us. So all glory to him. But at the time, when we were going through like our struggle time, I knew someone who was like an acquaintance. So we were getting to know each other better because she had lost her son and I was going through things like in my marriage. Yeah. So I guess like the pain bonded. That we were going through, like we were bonding. So again, we knew each other from around the way, but we started getting like really close. So I remember she would always tell me like, you do so much, you give so much, like you just like accept too much. And she was like, well, she's a therapist now, so at the time she's like trying to analyze me as she was getting to know me, but she's like, you just accept so much, like you accept crumbs, like you accept like things that you shouldn't. And she was just like always analyzing me. She's like, when I first met you, I thought like maybe she has low self-esteem. So she couldn't really figure me out, but she's like, but now that I know you, that's not the case. She's like, and I realized that you have issues with boundaries. Like you give too much, you love too hard, you give so much of yourself and you accept crumbs. So that was like a ding, kind of like cause and effect, right? Like that was the effect, right?
Cause and effect.
That's their show.
But in like, that was the effect, right? The effect was like, I don't have boundaries, and she made me realize that, but why? Like she was trying to figure it out. It's like low self-esteem. So you're trying to figure out like, was it something like when I was younger? Like, am I a sucker? Because sometimes I'm so nice and people might take advantage of that because like I give a lot and I'm so loyal and I'm always there. So sometimes it looks like, you're being a sucker and you're being taken advantage of. So it was hard for me to really know the why. That really opened my eyes and helped me to realize that, it's true. Because when you're someone who is so loyal and you don't have boundaries, it's easy for someone to take advantage of you. So I think now with knowing like the Enneagram and really reading it, it actually brought me back like 12 years ago when she said that to me. Yeah. Because again, it helped me so much, but I never really knew the why. And now like learning about myself and understanding that, it's kind of like, that's why. Not that I'm a sucker, but that's who I am. Like I am a loyal person. I am giving. Like if I give my all. I give myself away. So when you're that type of person, you have to have boundaries because then you're allowing everybody to take so much of you. It's like when you're in an airplane and they tell you, put your mask on first before you can help someone else. Where me, I would help other people and put my mask on last. That would be like my natural reaction. But in reality, you got to sometimes help yourself before you can help others. And that's hard for me sometimes to do. So I've learned to realize that. And it's like that, again, that cause, like, wow, that's why.
Yeah.
So
like that. And this is why I really love the Enneagram. Like I've mentioned it before, but we use the Enneagram more as a tool than something like to, predict your next move. type thing. It's just an awareness tool.
Yes.
Like I'm so glad that you're aware of that now, and that you can reflect back and say, oh wow, it's because I need to set up some boundaries. But there's people out there that are type 6s and don't know about boundaries, don't know how loyal they really are to people. And to be able to be aware of that, and to be able to like actually think, hey, let me take a step back and focus on myself. I need to put on my oxygen mask first before I can go help others. That's like super important.
And I love how you brought the head triad thing, right? Because all the Enneagram numbers have these triads. There's the gut triad, the head triad, the heart triad. And for us is the 5, 6, 7, where the head the head triad. And it's funny because like a 5 tends to stay too much in his head, and those thoughts never get expressed. For the 6, you think things through, and they're usually expressed, whereas the 7 just ignores those thoughts. If they make them uncomfortable, we're ignoring it. We're not even dealing with it. You know, and I love the fact that you brought this thing about boundaries, because I've read all the books, and none of them have really emphasized the need for boundaries in the lives of a type 6. But when you express this and you're sharing it, I'm like, yo,
it makes sense.
We'll write it in our book.
Yeah.
Because it just makes all the sense in the world, you know, for especially for like phobic 6s, right? Because again, I like a description that I found that I want to share. It says the phobic 6 manages his or her anxiety by planning and organizing ways to escape harm. The counterphobic 6s will put themselves in danger and attack their fears rather than be tortured by their troublesome thoughts. The phobic 6 is compliant and passive, while the counterphobic 6 is rebellious and aggressive. Although these approaches are different, a type 6 might employ both strategies at various times. Which
Again,
is some
that
of the
sounded
things that
like
you
me.
shared.
I could be like rebellious and go against the grain. And then other times I can be very passive, compliant. I'll let it go, especially with my kids. You know, I'm a mom. I have 4 kids, 2 in college, 2 in high school. So I have grown kids. So I definitely sometimes can be like that authoritarian. And then other times I can be very passive, where like the older ones are like, oh, when I was growing up, like you weren't like that with us, but with them, like you let them do whatever you want. So sometimes, again, it's like with a 6, I feel like it's very like a balance. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a Libra, and I know sometimes they say like that's a bad, like, you know, you balance with everybody. I don't know, but I know it's like 6s can be very like here and there. So it's like a scale, because I can see both sides a lot of times with everything that you're describing. Like, oh, sometimes I am that, and then sometimes I'm that too.
So and that's what they share, that with the type 6, they're that one personality type that they have. It's almost like a 2-in-1 deal. And it says that sometimes, like in the same moment, they can express both sides of that sort of nature, you know, where they're rebellious at a point, but then they'll try to flow because I'm a part of this. So it's I could see a wrestling match going on at times, which has
I mean,
to be
it's very difficult. I mean, it also works in my favor in the sense that, like I said, because we're a family of 6, and I know like when you guys were talking with the Enneagram 7, how you said when he took his test, it like was wow for you, like, oh, no wonder, that's why, you know. So I made everybody in my house take the test. I'm like, you guys have to take this, you have to do it. So now I've come to the realization, like, no wonder my house sometimes is a little chaotic, because my husband's an 8, my oldest daughter is a 7, the other one is after that is a 2. The other one is a 7, but she's just like her sister. But I think one navigates more toward like her wing 6, and the other one gravitates more toward her wings 8. I see that in them.
Okay.
And then my last one is a 5, and I'm a 6.
Oh my god.
So it's like when I tell you, it works in my favor, the fact that I do have that balance, because I know like my growth number is a 9, and that's when like you're focused and you're optimist, and they're peacemakers. Yeah. So there are times in my house where I can be like, no, you know, and I'm like, everybody's getting in trouble. That's it. And then there's times where there's chaos, and I try to be like the peacemaker, like, okay, relax, babe, chill.
Or you could
like,
view all sides of the actual problem.
Exactly. You know? So sometimes, like, because to work with all those numbers in one household, I'm telling you, it is not easy.
It's crazy because we were just we were just interviewing a 9, and she was kind of expressing that ability to bring all sides together. And here you are talking about your growth number and how you're able to do this. So it kind of like gives us a full picture of the things that we're sharing.
Yeah. Definitely. I just want to circle back a little bit to what you said about when you were talking about boundaries, and it prompted me to think about, you know, your need for security, your need for like to predict the future. Is that similar to a need for control, or is that a different angle?
Sometimes, because like I said, my husband's an 8, so sometimes he tells me like I try to take the reins, and so I do have that part of me where I do kind of try to take control. Like in the classroom, again, it's like a teacher thing with my kids. Like my personality, I can be very strong and assertive, and then other times, because like my husband sometimes he's like, aren't you a Spartan? Because I love to do Spartan races, so I could be like rough and tough, and then other times like I'm like, I want to cuddle and I want to be like held, and you know, he's like, but aren't you like a Spartan? So with
just
me,
cuddle, she's still a woman.
like there's so many areas of me, right? So sometimes it is like I want to take control of certain situations, so I can be very controlling, and then other times I can be very passive. So like again, it's hard to pinpoint one specific time, but I have both characters.
I think that's why when we read in one of the books somewhere that the 6s are probably the most difficult to describe, because it could go either way. There's always in the balance. It could be one thing or the other in a lot of areas. That's really interesting.
But the way Jasmine was just sharing how it's actually benefited me, because it helps them. It's almost like wings within wings. Like the counterphobic and the phobic becomes the wings within the type 6 itself, and
like how the wings in the airplane have like a little wing.
Yeah,
that like flaps.
It's super interesting because it's helped you. Like when you feel like you're getting too much over here, here comes the counterphobic side of it that says no, you got to be more assertive, you got to be more aggressive with your decision making.
Yeah, so for me it works that I do have that balance because I'm not just one way.
That's so good.
So like I said, sometimes that could be tough, even like at home with discipline. Then other times I could be like, you know what, go, like, you know, and I'm like too nice.
Have you shared that like with your husband, the things that you've discovered with the Enneagram 6 and the phobic and the counterphobic and all these things? And
he's
what
like,
was
are you getting like promotion for this? He's like, I'm like, I be sending them all these things like, oh, Enneagram this, and like I'm sending them all these numbers and all these things. But yeah, I definitely share like, you know, what I learned with him and even of himself. Because when I first took the test, I scored like I didn't really know about wings and all this stuff. I just like, you guys send me the link. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So I looked at the first 3 strongest numbers. So it was a 6, a 3, and an 8. So I was like, oh babe, like your first number is an 8, like my third, and I can see like again attributes that I have of like an 8, where the challenger, the strong, you know. But then there's other areas, like I said, that I'm not with the balance. So I like that I kind of share that with him. Because I do see certain attributes, so I show him like how we're compatible. And then even online, I ended up looking up like a relationship 8 with a 6, and on the Enneagram site it showed like it gave a whole description of an 8 and a 6 together and what that looks like. So he was like, oh, like, you know, he was interested.
Do you ever catch yourself like, oh wow, that was such a like type 6 thing to do? Like,
yes.
Oh my God, why did I just say that?
Yes, I do. Definitely.
Do you feel like it's helped your relationship, your marriage and with your daughters?
Definitely. Because I'm aware of certain things, and I'm aware of maybe when I am being too passive or when I am being too strong. So you know those characteristics about yourself. Now you can see them. Where before it was just like, you just did. Like one day I'm in a mood to be like tough, and other days I'm not.
You deal with it.
But now it's like you're aware, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to chill, or this is the time where I need to be the peacemaker, or this is the time where. So I play so many different hats that I'm aware now when I have to play them. And you know, as you get older, like, you know, I learned when to be quiet, right? Like the Bible says, like a righteous woman edifies her house, and that was like tough for me at one point, but I've learned that. So I've learned like that balance. So I think with 6, like that balance really, you know, it's like too much of anything is too bad. So I think that's why we need to be in that middle ground. I definitely learned that about myself, and the way like now that I react, or I can see it. So like you said, in your mind, like I don't say it to them, but in your mind you're like, okay, like I'm doing this, and you're aware. So you're like, let me just chill.
That's really good. That's really good. There's another thing that I wanted to share with, especially with the audience, you know, because we aren't born a type, right? Life happens, and life kind of, God uses life to kind of mold you into this personality. And then God says, okay, now I want to redeem that personality and use it for my glory. Right. And as a child, this, the books that we found, it says that 6s are friendly, likable, and dependable, and or sarcastic. So again, we already see this broad spectrum. Yes. Then it says bossy and stubborn. Mm-hmm. State that they could never develop primal trust because they had uncontrolled, unpredictable, or cold parents. They look to groups or authorities to protect them and or question authority or rebel. So again, it's almost like you're this, or it's crazy. But do you see any of that in your childhood?
I navigate a lot into groups. Like I said, even with the gym that I go to, it's like a crossover gym, but I always go at 8:00. It's like the same people. Like if we do races together, I was like in the run club with some of them. We did barn races. So I like that.
Okay, I found a new workout buddy, babe.
I mean, I fell off a little bit, but I'm going to get there again.
She could definitely push. I'm not working out with her.
I got Jasmine. We got Nicole.
We should have them on an episode together.
Ooh.
To do a part 2 to the whole health one that we did. That would be interesting.
Side note, put a pin on that, guys.
But definitely, like, I'm not the type, I can't just go to like a gym, do a workout and leave. That's why I never join those kind of gyms. That's why I like that family feel, the group ones. Or even like at my job, I mean, I'm still in the same district, but I have like worked in different schools in Newark. So even like with my last job, like a lot of people left, a lot of things changed, and I needed like that family feel, that warmth in like the school that I was in. So then I ended up going here because my friend worked there. She's like, oh, come, like, and that's what I needed, like that family feel, that group. Like I want to be able to go to
security.
work, and feel like I'm a part of that family. I'm a part of my gym family. Like,
that's so cool.
I like that. Some people, like my husband, he's more of a loner. He wants to just go do his workout, leave. He's not so much of a like into groups. I'm very much into that because, like you said, it's part of like my security blanket. And it just, I look for that. I do look for groups. That's one thing that is definitely really me.
That is really good.
There's a philosopher I love. His name is Heraclitus, and he said there's nothing permanent but except change. There's nothing permanent except change. Yeah. Now, for a 6 that likes kind of that permanence and likes that stability,
predicting the future.
How do you deal with
Well, like I
change?
said, going back to the beginning, that's very difficult for me. Like I said, I don't like to like leave, or I don't like to change so much my atmosphere. So I'm like always, 10 years there. I've been here for like 12. Like I don't really move too much. So that is one thing that's a growth area for me. Like knowing when it's time to close a door and not feeling like I quit or feeling like I let go. That knowing when it's time, I think that's definitely a struggle for me that I still work on sometimes. Like, when is enough? If I'm not happy, should I keep sticking it out? Maybe I need to close that door. Yeah. So that's definitely something that I struggle with.
And even just thinking about like, why are the reasons that you want to stick it out? Is it because this is a family, or is it because it's beneficial to me?
And sometimes I think that like being like a loyalist, I think a part of that is like, you kind of like look at me, like you kind of do want also recognition, or because you give so much that it's kind of like internally you want kind of like that in return. I would say like reciprocal love. That's something that like affects me, because I like, for example, if my daughter wants like, oh, I just want to barbecue for my birthday, here I go to like Party City, spend like $200, go all out, like I'm hanging posters, I'm that extra mom. So my husband's like, oh, you're extra, you stress yourself out. He says I do too much, which I do. Like, I want to, like you said, be like that friend. If I'm a friend, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to give you my all. If I'm a mom, like I try to do it all, and I want you like to see that I'm a great mom, to see that I'm a great friend. Like I try to really give my all, which is exhausting. And it's like very stressful because I burn myself out. Sometimes I want to do so much. And even though I don't want maybe recognition at that time, or it's not really about recognition for me, but I feel like when now it's my turn and I don't get it back is disappointing. Like, because I love so hard, like I gave so much.
Yeah.
So it's like now when it's my birthday or Mother's Day, now I'm like, okay, I'm waiting now for like that, what I do.
You deposited all these coins. Now you're ready to cash out.
Oh, wow. So it's like, even though at that moment, a simple thank you is enough just to see like my kids happy, or even at work, as a teacher, like one of my college professors says, like, teaching is not for the faint of heart. So it's definitely a very sacrificial profession. You have to give so much of yourself. Yeah. I teach 6th grade in Newark, so Newark itself is kind of tough.
6th grade.
It's very tough. So you give so much. Like I said, you literally give yourself away. So when like I don't see the recognition, let's say from like my administration or my boss, it's kind of like I don't mind giving all that, but then sometimes it's like I struggle with that, kind of like behind the scenes, like that. It hurts a little. Like, oh, why didn't I get like teacher of the year? Like, why did, or like I said, when it's like Mother's Day, like, okay, oh, good morning. Like, just a simple, like, okay, hug, kiss. Like, oh, you guys, you want to go out to eat? I'm like, you kind of like, you're expecting for that, like, extraness, like, an example, like one anniversary. My husband bought like 3 gifts. My daughter says she helped him with the idea, but he bought like 3 gifts. He put like a sticky note with each gift of why he bought it. And it was like, follow the trail, and he was at the end. To me, that's like my love language. I love like little corny things like that, but that come from the heart. Yeah. Like, you give me a $500 Gucci bag, hey, I'm not gonna say no, but
who is gonna say no?
Right, who's gonna say no? But that doesn't like move my heart. What moves my heart is like thoughtful gestures, like, because I love that way. Like, I give, like, I plan in advance. I don't do it last minute. Like, I have everything ready. I do it so like thoughtfully, just to make you happy.
You plan out that future.
So to me, like, I always remember that, because again, like, I don't really even remember what the gifts were, and I'm sure they cost some money, but it was the gesture that I remember that like touched my heart. So when it's my turn, I'm like, I'm waiting now for something like extra. Like, did you guys make a card? Like, you put thumbprint, something like, like that extraness again, like teacher in me, like likes crafts. But that's another struggle. I think with 6s, that maybe it's an internal struggle. I mean, maybe people don't really say it, but again, like, it's part of being vulnerable that like that's how you are. So, right, if I give you a ride to the airport, now, like, when it's my turn, it's like I'm expecting that. So even if it's not at the moment, right. But I like when I love hard, and I expect for people to love hard that way, and when they don't, it's like a stab in the heart. Like, it's disappointing. So that's another struggle, I think, like maybe with all 6s, but I know like that's a little inner struggle that I have too sometimes.
I really like that. One of the verses that I thought of in bringing up this episode is found in Colossians 3, where the Apostle Paul says, "You have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator." One of the books that we read, the Enneagram, the Christian Perspective by Rhor, he talks about how Jesus was all 9 types. And when he talks about Jesus being the 6, the phobic 6, the counterphobic 6, he was talking about how Jesus was able to fulfill this at different points of his life, right? As what some points of his life he went against the system. As other points of his life he flowed with the system, because ultimately that's the system that took him to the cross. So when we think about this, and we think about the counterphobic, the phobic, the 6-wing 5, the 6-wing 7, and all these different combinations that could spring forth from you, does that make this awareness journey more exciting? More, does it get you afraid? Like, what are some of the things?
Again,
because
I would say that it's both. I mean,
that's so good.
It's exciting because I see, like, even when I was saying like that inner part of me, but then it's like scary because you get to see your faults, and you have to be like real with yourself. And sometimes I'm like, what would Jesus do? He didn't do things for like the limelight or for recognition. So when I feel that, like, I'm like, Lord, help me not to feel that way. Like, when I feel disappointed or upset because they didn't give me what I gave, like, then I have to go back and say, Lord, like, I did it because I love them, in reality is not to get something back. So take that like feeling out of me, you know, like, so I have to like then pray on that, because that's a selfish thing. I mean, let's keep it real. It's selfish because you're doing something and you're kind of expecting something in return, when in reality, if we want to be like Jesus, right, we want to give without expecting anything in return. And so again, that's like you're looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing like that's an ugly part that I don't like, because it's I felt it, and then I feel guilty, or like I'll feel guilty of like giving my family like an attitude because they didn't go all out or they didn't do this, but they don't have to, like, you know, them just loving me, maybe not the way I love, like we're all different. I shouldn't expect the same love because they're not me and they're not a 6. Like they're all different types, and
they don't have your point of view.
Exactly. So it's okay. Like I should accept their love the way that they give love, because that's their love language, or the way that they give love. So it's like, in a way, I'm rejecting it because I want it the way I want it, which is the selfish part of me.
That's so good.
You know, so that's analyzing and learning more about yourself, like those are the ugly parts that we don't talk about and we don't want to say, because you don't want to, like, you sound selfish. Like even me saying it sounds like a little selfish, but the point, right, is to be real with who we are, for people to really dig inside themselves. So it's one thing, definitely, like you said, it's both. Like I'm enjoying the journey of learning those positives, but when you come across like those ugly parts, it's like, ooh, Lord, like you gotta do a little work here. You know, you gotta like you're confronting those ugly areas.
But so that's so good to even be aware of those ugly areas, and say, hey, like, God, I need you to work on this. I need you to fix this. This is
like
this is an area. This is an area of need that I have, and I love that about the Enneagram, because it highlights it so well. Because we all know we have weaknesses, but the Enneagram really highlights the areas so well. And I can now bring these areas that are highlighted and bring it to the cross, and bring it to God, and be like, God, these are the areas I want to work on to make myself a better person.
And it's part of like humbling yourself as well, you know, because when you humble yourself, you're not expecting anything. You're just like, it is what it is. Like, it's okay. I'm open arms.
It's a letting go. It's a letting go. That's so good. It's almost like when Jesus in the Gospels, in one of the Gospels, he's always talking about the Son of God came for, the Son of God, the Son of God. But then in Mark's Gospel, he always describes himself as the Son of Man, the Son of Man, the Son of Man. So it's almost like he's trying to help the 6s that might be battling with these senses of guilt, or these senses of, man, but where am I? Why do I do this? Jesus is like, don't worry. I'm the Son of Man too. I'm the Son of God too. And I'm there for you. You know what I mean? And I love that about the Lord.
Is laying like in the balance between, you know, a lot of things that we've mentioned. Is that indecisiveness, or is that just weighing both options? Like, is it more like I just don't know what I want, or is it like I know what I want, I just need like a clearer picture?
I think I usually always know what I want. It's just like you said, like more of a clear picture, knowing exactly what that looks like, and with having that balance of like being able to decipher different points of views, just knowing maybe even when is the right time. Timing plays a big role. Because I'm always in my head. Again, like I overthink. Like even when my kids, we have like a family chat. Like I go to Target, I want to buy a bathing suit. I send them like 10 pictures. Which one do you guys like? Put a heart. So like I can pick, you know, like it's hard for me to like know like the route. So I always know what I want, but to make like that decision,
that's good.
That's the tough part for me. Like I want to go to Target, I want to buy a bathing suit, but to make the decision, I'll be there like 3 hours before I actually walk out with something. So that's how sometimes it is a lot, like with other things in my life. It's like, I know what I want, but what's the clear path? Like, how am I going to get there?
I love how you describe that. Awesome. No, because it's relatable. Like sometimes I'm like, well, if I want Target, or should I check Amazon? Or should I check Walmart? Or should I, like, that indecisiveness, like, there's so many options. You know, I am with options.
The struggles.
Just give me, like, a menu with 3 items. Don't give me, like, a Cheesecake Factory menu with, like, 100 items. But it's you painted a really good description. Like, okay, I know I want Target. I know I need a bathing suit. It's just now I have this limited amount of options.
And I seek approval a lot. I do notice that.
Mm-hmm.
I do seek, and that's another attribute I think of the 6, is that they do seek like approval from like authority. Sometimes we can rebel and go against authority, but other times we do seek approval of authority as well. I think you said that like in the beginning. So like I said, even with something that simple, but with like anything, like if I'm going to buy a house, my husband's like, don't say anything to anyone, like until we do it. But I'm like, I want to ask my mom. I want to ask my sister. Like, what do you think? Do you think I should do this? Like, do you think it's the right time? So like I try, even though at the end, I make the decision, but I try to like get all of these kind of like to validate if it's the right decision.
Wow, that's good.
But it's a little too much sometimes where I exhaust so much to finally make one decision, and it took me like I have to call everybody, ask all these questions, like so I do seek like validation sometimes from people.
That's so good.
That is so good. And I want to talk a little bit about the wings. And I don't know, Jasmine, I think with you it's like you're pretty even. Like you could be either or, which we've been talking about that.
I mean, I think I navigate more toward the 7.
Okay.
I mean, I would say with the 5, I'm probably like a problem solver. I know the 5 has that, and maybe like one other attribute, but I think definitely like I could be spontaneous, I could be fun, like he said, like that friend, like I'm that cool friend, like let's go.
That's funny that you say friend, because the 6 wing 7, the name that's like attached to that type person is the buddy.
Exactly. Like call me buddy. Up, we in there, like I'm your ROD, like you call me right now, like oh let's go to Hoboken, like babe I'm going to Hoboken, like I like to do. So I do see myself gravitating toward like the 7.
The buddy is engaging, supportive, and likable, looking to team up with others for extra support and security.
And you just talked about how you need that validation.
That support.
So when I was younger, that would go to make bad decisions. Now, now I'm getting older, I'm like, okay, I got to think this through.
And we have the 6 wing 5, which is the defender. And I kind of see that a lot about you, too. I love how you defend your family so much. Like, I don't know her husband and her 4 beautiful daughters.
Thank you.
But you've always spoken about them like as like the mama bear, like you're very protective, you defend your family, you pray for your family, like family is very important to you.
They know, like mom, oh let's go to mom, they need something, go to mom, where's this in the closet, mom knows everything, go to mom, like but that's another thing, like I do strive for that. I want them to know like I'm always here, I'm always gonna be here no matter what, like I am the one. Don't call your friend.
Loyal
like,
to my
me.
family.
Always like loyal.
And I've always seen that, like the way you talk about your daughters and the way you talk about your husband. Yeah, it's not in a defensive like you can't touch them, but like more of like I'm here for them at all costs. Like whatever they go through, I'm gonna be there for them. And the description that they have for the defender is someone who's organized, knowledgeable, responsible, and serious about ethical and political beliefs. Can be mistyped as a 1. Very outspoken and intense. Can look like an 8.
And I said that.
Yeah, I know. I'm validating you.
Yeah. So actually, the 5 does sound a lot.
Yeah. So I see a lot of both. Like I see that buddiness quality, and I also see that defender. So I think you kind of like teeter right on that line of both.
And I think that's a blessing, right? Because while some people might say, "Oh, that sounds like a confused schizophrenic type person," you know, I see it as a person that's well-rounded, as a person that is being molded into this creation, right? The Bible says that in Christ we're new creations, and when you think about a 6, they can be a new creation every week, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because you're constantly morphing into the image of your Creator. And when we think about God, we never think about God as just this one object. And the people that do are usually the religious people that are driving everybody crazy and out of the Lord. But when I hear you and Anna, you know, the point that she just brought out with the wings and the counterphobic and the phobic and the growth and the like, there's so many directions you can go to, and I think that makes life fun.
It's my husband's favorite word. Fun.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I could be like a chameleon, right? If I'm with you and you're like a 7 and you're like turn up time, but like if I'm with someone who, you know, wants to like, I don't know, be like, oh, let's organize a party. Like I'm there, you know, or like come
You're
over.
like what anybody needs them to be.
Yes, like
type.
I need you to come and pray for me. Like I'm gonna go to your house. Like I'm gonna cry with you, and like you're right. The Bible says, "Cry with those who cry, like laugh with those." Right. So I'll be what you need me to be. Even sometimes when I talk, my husband's like, because I'm half Colombian, half Ecuadorian. He's like, sometimes when you're around Colombians, you talk more Colombian. But when you're like with other people who are not, sometimes your accent's not there. You just like, you blend in with who you're with. I'm like, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love all this. And I mean, honestly, I came into this feeling like I was kind of confused when it came to a 6, because again, they can go in so many directions, and you've like really cleared up
clarified
so
it. So I'm about to go to look for these 6s now, because I was like, I know you.
Like for some people, it would be like you said, like schizophrenic, complete chaos.
Yeah.
But for someone who's a 6, that's normal. Like it's okay for you to be hot and cold. It's okay for you to like want to conquer the world one day and then just like want to sleep in like the next day because you did 1,000 activities like the day before. And that's okay, because we are like that in between.
And it's so cool because, Jasmine, like now I understand you a little bit better. And it just creates a better relationship.
So
I can think of something like, hey, maybe Jasmine will want to do this, because I know these are some of the things that she might like. These like big group type things. Maybe I need like the buddy. Maybe I need the defender. Like maybe I need her to be that person. And she's willing to be that person because that's who her core, like in core, her core is. I think that's so important. Like
like I always want to be the person that you need me to be, because I love like that.
And this is not just for like marital relationships. These are like friendships,
parenting,
relationships with your siblings, relationship with your kids. Like, how do we relate to each other better so we're more effective, so we like each other? You know, like we could have siblings but we don't even like our siblings. We could have like friends but we don't even really like them or understand them. We just los soporto, like kind of stuff. You know, we have parents, and do we really like our parents? It's just like understanding each other a little bit more, like being able to relate to one another so we even like each other.
It's definitely a great tool. And I think like even now that I'm going into the like new school year, I was like, oh, I want to do this like with my students. Like I want to know their numbers. Like I want to know what triggers them. I want to know, like, you know,
it just makes it easier.
Like, because with some students, like you could be like, didn't I tell you to say, like you could be strict,
right?
And like they'll do it. And other ones, they'll kind of rebel. Like, who are you to tell me? You know. So it's like you by knowing their type or knowing, you know how to approach them better. So even like in that area, I feel like it would be such a tool for me. So I'm already like, I want to do it with my kids. You. But because I learned so much from my kids at home and just like looking at their numbers. I feel like I should do like a Cantillo Enneagram book myself, because we're all like different types. And like this one relates to that one and this one. Because like I said, my house alone, we have, out of all 6, there's like 5 different numbers. Only
That's
2 have the same.
That's
amazing. So it's been very helpful for me. And like how I can even implement it, and like you said, getting to know people and how it could be like effective on how like those relationships are, because it's all about, like you said, relationships.
Exactly. Amen. And if this has been a helpful video for you guys, please make sure you share. Please make sure you comment. Let us know what your type. If you're a type 6 and you're listening to this, let us know some things that resonated. Let us know some things that didn't resonate. Some more things that you may have learned that could be helpful for us to share with other people that have listened to this podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at SundayBYOB Podcast. Subscribe to this channel, comment, share, like it, heart it, talk about it.
And thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for helping us understand this 6 that was so confusing for us.
I'm a complicated being, but
thank you for
I
coming.
have a lot to give.
Thank you for coming on, for being so vulnerable. Thank you for your family for sharing her with us.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate, you guys listening and also giving, me insight. And even for those who are listening, again, like my advice would be keep being loyal. God sees your hard work.
Amen.
Just know your boundaries. But what would Jesus do, right? He gave everything he had, and just keep being loyal and give it your all. Give your heart.
Let's go. See you guys next week. Thank you for being with us. Be blessed.
Bye, guys.